This is Optimized, a marketing performance podcast geared toward all things multifamily marketing. I'm your host, Janet Rosseth, a 25-year veteran in multifamily marketing and founder and CEO of Cadence Marketing Solutions. Optimizing is defined as making the best or most effective use of a situation, opportunity, process, or resource. My mission here is to bring you ideas, practices, and perspectives to help you optimize one conversation at a time with industry pros who influence multifamily marketing. You'll hear from founders, leaders, marketers, and operators who are breaking the barriers to achieve optimal performance in multifamily. This episode is brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, delivering the latest news, ideas, and inspiration across the multifamily sector. Now, let's get into today's conversation. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Optimized, a marketing performance podcast. I'm your host, Janet Rosseth, 25-year veteran of multifamily marketing, and bringing you this podcast to try to achieve 1% better in your daily life. That's what we do here on Optimizing. Whether it's work, professional, or personal, we're looking for tools, productivity, efficiency, and conversations that help you achieve just a little bit better in everything you're currently working on. And I'm super excited today to bring Jacob Carter into the conversation from Nurture Boss. Jacob is the founder and really gas pedal going full speed in 2025. And we're excited to have a conversation about what he's seeing in technology in the industry, perhaps in the world, and how it's helping us optimize the work that we do. So, hi, Jacob. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah, super excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy any conversation that we have, so I'm looking forward to today as well.
Me too. We've had some good conversations over the years and done a few sessions together, and I'm always fascinated by your story and what prompted you to start Nurture Boss. And it's been a couple of months since we talked, and I know you've got big plans ahead. So I'm looking forward to multiple parts of this conversation with you, especially in here it is January and tech is just being introduced at massive speeds. So it's going to be a fun conversation. Yeah. For listeners who aren't familiar with your story and where Nurture Boss grew from a small idea, can you take us through your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So my whole professional career, I've been a software engineer. So one of the curses and blessings of that is I think technology can fix all problems. That's often not the case, but nevertheless, when I experience a problem, I start looking for technical solutions pretty quickly. And if they don't exist, I start figuring out if I can build them. I spent a lot of years, especially in my early and mid 20s as a renter. And a lot of times was a little bit unsatisfied with my experience as a renter. So I started figuring out what specifically are my pain points. And I think I can build something that will solve those pain points. And that really was the first version of Nurture Boss. It was as a resident or as a prospective resident, I wanted to be able to have the information I needed when I needed it without having to go look for it or hope that I got a response in a timely manner. And that allowed me to create this platform that did a great job at getting the right message in front of the right person at the right time in the lead to lease or lease to renewal lifecycle. I piloted or kind of beta tested the product on a couple of properties. Really within a few weeks, we were able to correlate multiple leases that had been signed because of the communication that Nurture Boss at the time, I don't even know if it was called that yet, had sent those individuals. And for me, that was kind of the first light bulb or aha moment where I was like, okay, I think I have something here that really provides value for the apartment community and provides value for the renters or existing residents, and kind of just went full steam ahead from there. The other quick thing that I just like to mention when talking about Nurture Boss too, Jessica is our executive vice president of sales, and she's also my sister. When I was first starting Nurture Boss, I'd be at kind of the family dinners talking about these sales calls that I'm trying to have and the pitches I'm trying to make for why people should use Nurture Boss. And she very bluntly but politely was like, you need my help. You have no idea what you're doing here when you're trying to sell this product. Let me come on board and help you. And which point I tried to talk her into it even further. And she eventually came on, kind of left her steady corporate job to work for me for free for a long time under the promise that one day I'll be able to pay you. And that's kind of really what launched Nurture Boss into our initial phase of growth.
That's such a great story. And I imagine it's such a blessing and a curse to be capable. I mean, software engineer by education, but also be able to just look at your life and the things around you. And how do you not constantly think I could build something for that? Are you constantly think that?
Yeah, all the
Then the
time. I
second
think that
question
it
is, when you
helps.
swirl like that, how do you stay 150% focused on one thing at a time, one product at a time?
Yeah, so that's the secret. I think there's a lot of people with, a lot of good ideas. There's a saying that ideas are free. And what people mean is like, listen, we all have a lot of great ideas. Executing on a single idea and driving it through is incredibly hard to do. And it's something that's taken me a lot of failure to figure out how to do well. And it's something that we're all trying to do is stay focused, right? That's a complicated
Yes.
thing to do, especially in today's world. I think being incredibly busy helps you kind of stop trying to fix all the problems. I have one problem that I'm obsessed with, and that's, making a more streamlined and efficient experience for prospective renters and existing residents. And I stay
Yeah.
obsessed with that one pain point, that one problem, and that allows me to stay focused. But yeah, it can definitely be a challenge for sure.
And your timing was perfect, bringing Nurture Boss out of the ground. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was it 2018, 2019, just as we were heading into lockdown and leasing completely differently than we knew it before?
Yeah, it was even closer than that. It was January of 2020. So it was
Right.
it was right before lockdown, and nobody wants to benefit from a pandemic, but it is worth calling out that the adoption of technology certainly accelerated during the pandemic because we all had to find a new way to do things, and we were able to contribute, I think, in a really positive way to that kind of momentum.
Absolutely. And I think back to those days, and I think we came through a few years where we just deployed at rapid speed anything that would automate the solutions, right? Anything that would automate the process, automate the workflow. But now, fast forward a couple of years, and operators that I'm working with and, across the industry, it feels like we're trying to backtrack just a little bit and personalize and make it feel
Yeah.
less automated and more like you might actually be engaging with a person. So it's hard to know these days. It's hard to know. Like that's when it's done
Yeah.
really well, is when you can't tell if you're actually engaging with a person or a bot or AI or technology. What role does Nurture Boss play in that piece of personalization?
Yeah, great question. And what you just described is the evolution of our product as well, right? When NurtureBoss first rolled out in 2020, we had AI components to our product, but we certainly were not an AI company, and our product was not an AI product. It was an automation product, right? Our goal was to get text messages and emails delivered to prospects and residents in an automated fashion that allowed them to self-serve for wherever they were at in the journey. And, really to your point, automation solves the pain point immediately, but it quickly surfaces a new pain point, which is personalization. None of us want to feel like we're getting that automated message, that we're not getting the personal touch, that the property doesn't know that, I, Jacob, exist. I'm just another number on a spreadsheet. That's not a feeling that we like, right? So how do we really create that personalized experience for every prospect and resident without losing the efficiency that automation brought to the table? And that really was the question that led to our personal and a lot of other technologies evolution into kind of that virtual leasing assistant or generative AI agent side of things. And by bringing that into the fold, and we can get into a lot more detail here if you want, but by bringing that new modern technology into the fold, it allowed us to continue to keep the efficiency and optimization of automation, but create a great experience for everybody individually, on a personal level, so that we don't feel like we're just a number on a spreadsheet as a renter for an apartment community.
Right. I think that's so important because we came through, automations got built, email systems out of CRMs got put into place, and leasing agents could be assured that prospect was getting some sort of email. But from the other end, we do a lot of testing with my team, with our consulting agency, and we see so commonly that the message is the same over and over again. It's an automated message. It says something along the lines of, take the next step. But it doesn't feel like someone has reached out to you personally or even remembers that you are moving for a very certain reason, or you have a dog, or you have certain concerns. It doesn't address that. It just checks the box of follow-up was achieved at 48 hours or whatever it may be. So that personalization, I know the last time I investigated Nurture Boss, I was really impressed with how it could actually remember certain things about prospects and cater to that. Just for listeners who aren't as familiar about it, give us the rundown. How does it do that?
Yeah, great question. So, to answer that question and also elaborate on the example you just gave, You can send out an automated email that says, hey, thanks for submitting our contact form. Click here to view our amenities. Click here to look at our property website. Click here to tour. And you're going to get some clicks out of that, and you're going to get some tours out of that, to be certain. But that's not a personal experience. That's a automated, obviously, I got this from a robot experience. The difference in how we operate today and how we solve that personalization problem is we say, hey, thanks for reaching out, to the Dunphy Apartments. We're really looking forward to helping you get moved into your next home. What's important to you? What are you looking for? And that's a question. We've just asked a question to that prospect. We didn't give them a bunch of click here's. Yes, there is also at the bottom of an email, click here to schedule a tour. We don't lose that opportunity, but we're trying to engage and start a conversation. Now, when they come back and they say, well, I'm going to bring my golden retriever with me, is that allowed? We can respond leveraging AI right away and say, yes, of course, here's our pet policy. Here's the pet deposit. Any other questions you have? And then when they follow up and say, yeah, I'm also curious about your amenities, the AI is going to respond and say, well, let me tell you about our swimming pool, but also for that dog that you're bringing, we have a great bark park and pet wash station, right? So now you're really starting to take previous content from the conversation you're having to talk about hyper relevant things for the general questions they're asking, like amenities, for example, right? So this is an incredibly personalized experience that is unique not only to that individual, but that specific conversation and the history of that conversation that you're having.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point that the difference is there can be an email that goes out that's a reminder. It reminds you were engaged with this property, you were looking, maybe you want to click through and see some other things, but personalized follow-up is not a reminder. It's different. It's engaging. It's moving people forward to the next step. It's making sure they've got the answers to their questions, not just common questions. It's just kind of a different game. And I think you've done a really good job too. The times that I've talked to you and we've been in conversations together, you and Jessica do such a good job at listening in the industry and addressing what your product is learning as you build it, and also listening to what's happening in the industry. What are you hearing out there that is really driving you forward in 2025 in terms of the needs of leasing, of the prospect, of marketing, of operations? Where have things changed a little bit that you're hearing new goals?
Yeah, great question. So I think the thing that stands out to me most right now is the desire for what we would call a true omni-channel experience. So not only do individuals have preferred channels, but they're going to bounce between different channels. So if you call a property, or you email a property, or you text message a property, or you go to the chatbot on the website, you're talking to the same AI, ideally in that scenario, the same leasing agent if they're not using an AI product, right? So that it's a cohesive and coherent experience as a prospective renter. So, when I call the property, not only should the information I get be consistent, but also if there's other conversation that's been had on other channels, that should be relevant to the conversation I'm having now, and it should be referenced to the conversation I'm having now. So this true omni-channel experience.
That's one of the things we pick up in our consulting work. We do a lot of testing. We call it a stride audit. We test from marketing through the handoff to leasing into a virtual tour, and we measure the friction factor. And there's a lot of friction out there. And that is one of the biggest pieces of friction, is that if you call from a Google ad or even a Google business listing, and then you submit a form from a website fill, and then you interact with the bot, none of them knows you are the same person. And by the time the leasing agent picks it up, they can't. That's one of the questions we kind of try to answer is, do they seem aware that we have already submitted a form, engaged with the bot, and placed a call? Can they piece that together through their CRM? And often not. So for the prospect, that's really challenging, that how many different places do I have to interact in order for you to realize I'm the same person? And your AI is able to do that, to be able to see, hey, you seem like the same person that matches this phone number and the interaction with the bot, and now you're engaging again. Like, let's just pick up with the conversation where we were at.
Yeah, and exactly that. In addition to that, really robust integrations are critical for any technology that an apartment community is using. And if we're learning information about a prospect through AI conversation, whether it be their amenity preferences, if they're bringing pets or not, we should be updating the integrated system. The CRM, the PMS, they store guest card data. So if I know that an individual's bringing their dog, I need to immediately go put that data in the CRM. So the on-site team has a single source of truth, which is their property management software, their CRM, that has all the up-to-date information, all the records of all the AI conversations, all the preferences and other criteria that's been gathered along the way. So I think that's another important piece to good technology implementation as well.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a bold question here, but do you feel like from the PMS side that we're there and PMS systems being able to smoothly pick up that handoff from Nurture Boss? I feel like there's a lot of tools out there doing really great jobs, and then there's like fields that just get in the way in PMS software, and we can't quite get that fluid experience for the leasing agent in picking up all the information they need when they receive the call from the prospect to say, sure, I see that you've been interacting.
Yeah.
Are we there?
Yeah. So no, we're not there. That's an easy question to answer.
Honestly, I think we're headed there, but gosh, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And one that
we're definitely headed there.
Of you that are pushing through it, I really respect that you are trying so hard to get there. I think it's monumental for the industry that we do achieve it, and it's coming.
Yeah, I think that as a vendor, right, in the multifamily space, we are always trying to work with other vendors to create the best experience for our mutual customers as possible. I think that the more our customers, property management companies, apartment owners speak up about a desire for cooperation across vendors, it makes it easier for that cooperation to exist, right? So I think if we all just really adopt this mentality of we all have the same real customer, which is the renter, right? At the end of the day, that's who the person being impacted by all this technology or people are. So because we truly all share that ultimate end user of the customer, we need to work together to create the best experience for those customers as possible. So yeah, more integrated. And
customer also being the employees, the leasing teams on site that are, picking up that handoff, because the more tech you add, the more cluttered and chaotic the experience gets for the leasing agent. And then it's almost like, gosh, can we just go back to sending smoke signals here? Because it's getting tough.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, well said. I think that, another example of partnering with good technology vendors and partners is finding ones that can make the on-site team's life easier, not harder.
Yeah.
And, vendor-to-vendor integration is a really important way to do that. And creating a more open environment there and a more friendly environment there is definitely something I think we're working toward. And I'm a big proponent of continuing to make progress on. And just really quick to add to that, in the beginning when I started Nurture Boss, I came at it from the perspective of the unsatisfied renter, right? But very, very quickly, I became wildly empathetic to the lives of on-site team members and what they have to deal with and all of the hats they have to wear and the jobs they have to juggle. And, optimizing that experience is just as important as optimizing the renter's experience for sure.
150% agree with you there. Yes. And I think you're doing really good work on trying to streamline that experience for both ends. Tell me, I'm just curious, we've had so many conversations about tech and so much is happening just in the world right now with AI and the explosive growth and change that's happening. How do you keep up with it all as a tech company?
Yeah, good.
How do you survive to thrive when it's changing at massive speed and scale?
Good questions.
I feel like you always have to have eyes in the back of your head on what's out there that's about to take you by surprise.
The way that I would phrase it is it's threading a needle of constantly allowing yourself to get distracted by shiny things, but also not getting distracted by shiny things, right? So I think that there's a few things that I prioritize when looking at new technology or optimization of existing technology, which is what I would refer to as productization, meaning if I were to build something with this, can I put it in front of a customer, right? And something that's super early, ultimate beta testing, not ready for prime time, we don't need to sink a lot of time and energy into that because even if we make a decision to move forward with it, it's not ready to be put out in front of other individuals. So you want to stay current and up to date and keep your ear to the ground on what's going on. You want to, in a internal and controlled environment, play with those new technologies all the time so that you know what they can and can't do. But really, you want to ensure some form of stability and reliability around anything that you're going to put in front of a customer. And when you add that criteria, the list actually gets a lot smaller of how much is out there right now and what there is to look at. So
Right.
we
It
get
seems like you must
distracted.
have two pieces going in the company, like a playground where people are keeping their eye on stuff that's coming and testing and modifying and playing with it, and then the actual group that's running with the product that you have out there.
That's exactly right. That's literally exactly what we do and what I recommend everyone do so that you can be on the cutting edge, but be pragmatic about what you can put in front of customers. Yeah, we're
Question
happy.
for
It's
you
also
on,
fun.
yeah, right? Like, do you just sort of step between the two roles here and there to see what's coming, but also be aware of what's going out the door right now? I'm just curious, you've grown this from just since 2020. It's only 2025. It's still a very young company. I'm always curious when I talk to founders on where have your aha moments or your, oh my gosh, that was the nailed it and failed it moments. Like, what was your failed it moment or your aha moment that we would, cue the audacious music to right now and tell your story on, gosh, I almost lost it right there, but we came through.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's so many, and sometimes they're massive and sometimes they're micro, but they all play a role in driving where we end up and where we are today. I think some of the exciting aha moments that we've had are on the customer relationship side. And what I mean by that is that at Nurture Boss, if you go to Google right now and read all of our awesome 5-star reviews that we have, every single one of them is talking about the customer success manager that they work with, and who their relationship at Nurture Boss is with and how grateful they are for that relationship. And I think as a technology company, it's really easy to forget about the people side of your business.
Yes.
The thing that really clicked for us at Nurture Boss and remains a priority and a focus is like, wow, these relationships are so important. And our customers feeling like they're heard and they have an avenue to get help, give feedback is so important and something I never want to lose. And that's kind of one of those really big, I think, ahas for us is realizing how big of an impact on our business and on our customers' business a strong relationship there can be. I think on the flip side of it, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but we're doing a lot of growth right now at Nurture Boss, and it's really strategic and planned and so far incredibly effective growth. We had phases earlier in the business where maybe we started growing a little bit before we needed to. We didn't really know how to do things at scale yet. We didn't have repeatable processes in place. And as a business owner, you see success, you see growth, and you think if I just add more bodies at the problem or at the solution rather, it's going to just get better and better. It turns out it's not that simple, right? So I think some failed it moments that we've had in our past was not having the maturity or repeatability in place that you really need to have before you start growing a business, which we do have in place today. And it's why our growth today is so exciting. But in the beginning, Jessica and I specifically, I think, tripped over our shoes a little bit as we were getting the company off the ground.
Kudos on the way that you grew, because as a small company, when you're scaling, when it's first, 5 of you and you add another couple of bodies, you're essentially doubling in size, which can really change the culture instantly, change the speed and pace of which you're moving. And you've been able to do that and scale and backtrack and acknowledge that, you need systems in place to add the people, but you need people to add the systems. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? But kudos on growing to that scale and in such a short amount of time while delivering a really exciting and pivotal product to the industry. That's a lot all at once.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think you said it well. It's the culture and the end user experience that could potentially suffer there if you're not prepared for it, right? If you have a bunch of people that don't have the tools they need to do their job, and customers that don't know who to call, and it's really that experience is important. And yeah, false starts happen, but you learn from them, and you're in a position like we are now where we're ready to rock and roll, and you can move forward smoothly.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, from this side of the industry, we support a lot of operators, we support marketers. And from this side of the industry, that is one of the hardest things about onboarding tech and making your tech stack work efficiently is having that relationship on the other side of the wall with your vendor and knowing that you really are well supported to maximize the use of that tech tool. Because if you can't maximize it, you can't sell it to the executive team or the users on the property end, or if it's causing friction for your residents and your prospects, it's impossible to continue to sell the use of that product if you can't get to a point where everybody loves using it. So,
Yeah, agreed.
so important having that really cohesive relationship. And it sounds like you've done a good job of layering that in and continuing to support it and gaining those testimonials from users as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So lots that you've been working on up to now. Tell me, you just got a round of funding. You've got some exciting stuff coming. What's on the 2025, 2026 radar for Nurture Boss?
Yeah, continuing to drive toward offering the most, effective and robust AI solutions in multifamily. Something that I'm really proud about our team is how fast we iterate and improve on products that we build or are building. And, we have a lot of really great customers leveraging our virtual leasing assistant, seeing some really incredible results. And we're excited to keep growing that product base. And getting more and more iterations and releases of our AI products to just continue to be, best in breed and stay at the top tier there for AI and multifamily products. So really that's our focus right now, is iterating on those. Later in the year, we'll have some broader product releases that I'm excited to announce that everyone can kind of keep an eye out for. But really,
for Apartmentalize, everybody holds back the big news for June.
Yeah, I don't, hold him back so that I don't have to announce something that's not coming out for 4 months. You know what I mean? I like anticipation, but not that much anticipation.
Yes. I love anticipating what's coming in the new year with all the tech tools out there. One of the conversations we had too, I just want to really touch on this since, I always feel really fortunate to have tech founders on this podcast with me, because you just really have, the feelers out from all sides. So the amount of tech that's coming at us, the conversations that are out there, a lot of operators are trying to really dig in and understand their customer journey, and then also really evaluate their whole tech stack from a standpoint of, can we really add on one more thing, or do we need to consolidate and streamline the tech stack that we're working on? You mentioned that you put out a blog post about that exact piece of choosing and buying and the things that you need to be thinking about when you're purchasing. And I'd like to lead our listeners to that blog post, but tell us a little bit about that. And from your perspective, how do you approach buying tech in 2025?
Yeah, good question. And I think also, just because AI is so prevalent, if it's okay, I'll even answer it within the frame of AI tech in 2025. Definitely. So, for me,
a level of challenges, because people need to feel like they can trust it, and there's got to be some security controls behind it. It's not just onboarding a product that has its own security. It can breathe a little. Yeah. Take us through that.
And I think I won't get, just because it's a big conversation. We can dive maybe in the future into things like compliance for AI and things of that nature. But I think, broadly speaking, when looking at AI products to purchase, I like to bucket everything into one of two categories. Is it oriented around task completion, or is it oriented around driving outcomes? And I'll spend a little bit of time digging into that, but task completion AI is often the shiniest of AI and the most exciting and demoable pieces of AI, but is far less actually productive or useful than outcome driving AI. So a really, silly or quick example, I may say to ChatGPT, hey, I want to put on some resident events this year. I'm getting a resident event calendar together. What are some ideas? And ChatGPT is going to spit out a list of resident events that you could do. And that's great. It gave you some fresh ideas. You can use that list. You got to go now plan those events. You got to reach out and invite everybody to those events. You got to get a calendar together, get your team organized around those events, if you even decide to use that list. That is a task-oriented AI solution, as an example. An outcome-driven or more robust solution would be AI that knows its job is to help drive resident event calendars. So that AI on its own goes out and surveys all your residents and says, what do you like to do? It then consumes those survey results. It understands, based on your residents, what events would be the biggest hit. It then gets a calendar together for you. It then CCs all the right people it needs to and emails all the right contacts at the management company saying, here are the events that we think we should do based on what the residents are saying, right? So one of these is a cog in a machine. The other one is the machine, right? And when we're bringing AI products into our properties, we should be focused on partnering with solutions that drive outcomes, not execute task completion, right? Because ultimately, while cool, that doesn't actually do much for you in terms of efficiency, optimization, and driving outcomes. Whereas the alternative does a heck of a lot for you,
Yeah.
right? And is a true robust solution.
Let me ask you this from a standpoint of running a business and, tackling all this at once. What are your favorite AI tools?
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer. Yeah, I'm a software engineer, so like the tools I like to use aren't going to be exciting for other people. But I'll just briefly say the evolution of AI's ability to actually write code is quite incredible. It still needs human oversight. You're not going to want to just use code, but you can be starting to write something. And I'll give a non-techie example right afterward for everybody. But I could be writing code, and all of a sudden in gray font, the next like 20 lines of code that I was going to write are just there. And you press tab and bam, there it is. So right now when you write and the real world example is, right now when you write an email maybe, and these are, to call it out, task oriented AI features, right? But when you write an email, maybe you get the next word or two. Imagine getting the next 3 paragraphs, right?
Yeah,
just because it can tell what you're writing. Yeah, and those kinds of tooling on the coding side are exciting for me, but there are non-coding examples where that's also useful and exciting. The other thing that I use AI for a lot is grading my AI products. So when you generate and create AI products and you have customers using those products, I hope there is something or somebody that is reading all of those conversations, right? Our virtual leasing assistant is out there having many conversations via phone, email, text, and web chat. And those conversations at NurtureBoss, at least, are being reviewed by a person, but they're also being reviewed by AI. And I love to use AI to grade my AI and understand what's working, what's not working, so that we can iterate and continue to make our product better.
Yeah, that's really exciting. You can't even imagine. I love it when the email AI tries to finish my sentence and finish for me, but code, that would just be incredible. I imagine at first it's a little scary to think, okay, wait a second. How do you know where I'm even going with this? But
yep,
that's exactly
I was very
so fast.
I was very late to the game in implementing code AI because of inherent distrust I had, but I gave it a chance and it's incredible. And is somebody that builds AI products for a living, it took me way too long to hop on that train, but I'm here now.
I completely understand. I tend to usually be on the forefront of tech, and I find myself sometimes on the back end like, how are y'all trusting this so much right now? Like, seriously, I start to engage out in the real world and I'm like, what's AI and what's a real human being? Like, and when I make calls to, ask questions, I had just went through this whole deal with my daughter on getting her set up going back to college and some components of that. And I was on the phone literally thinking like, am I actually even getting prompted through AI? Is this a real person? I almost wanted to like trip over a sentence and see if they could figure out what I was saying. But it's a strange world we live in and it's exciting.
Yeah, strange and exciting are two great words to describe it. I agree.
Yes. You got to really be like out there thinking on your feet to figure out whether or not you're interacting with AI or not AI. It's kind of a joke we have in our company, even like AI or not AI, when we send each other things. It's like, gosh, you can't tell anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely the truth. Yeah. And, it's exciting times. Generative AI specifically has been wild to watch it evolve over the last 24 months. And it's just getting better and better,
Yeah. I'm always curious too, founders of tech solutions, and you spend your entire workday in technology, in AI, and just, the fastest moving components of software development. What's your home life like? Do you use tech a lot at home, or are you like, get away? I just want no tech in my house right now.
Yeah, it's funny. My personal life, sometimes there's certain things that I'm low tech on and some I'm high tech. So for example, I just got a Kindle, a couple months ago, and I've been in bed at night when I'm going to bed, I read, and I've been reading paperbacks and, books for decades. And finally I got a Kindle and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing's incredible. Right. And it's like, I'm so late to that game.
It's actually hilarious.
Yeah. But then, there's other sides where I'm definitely very tech forward, and the house has got all the, smart switches and smart home, Internet of Things, IoT stuff going on, and some of that too. So, I think I'm actually probably very surprisingly middle ground when it comes to tech for somebody that's so professionally focused on tech.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll share just a little personal bit here, just a public service announcement for you and any listeners out there that having your home completely set up as a smart home and all the technology. My house got hit by lightning a couple years ago. Not to the point where it burned. I didn't even know this could happen. But a ground strike happened that hit our electrical lines, and it basically is called gremlins that just sort of attack everything that was plugged in your house. And
Holy cow.
everything is the electricians basically told us like everything has been compromised to like 75% of its life factor. So you're going to replace a lot of things. And we still, 2 years later, have some components like our heating and air conditioning control panel just can't
Hmm.
get accurate. Like there's just things that
Holy
just can't get
cow. What are
accurate.
the
I think to
odds?
myself, like, man, if we had set up a smart home, like we would be in a world of hurt right now. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
thankful that we aren't that tech savvy. In fact, I set my
Yeah.
laptop down that night by my bed because I was still working. And I just set it on the floor and didn't get up and go plug it in. And I was so thankful that it was not plugged in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that
What are the
crazy?
odds? Holy cow.
Yeah, I know. What are the odds exactly? I must
Yeah.
have really ticked somebody off that day. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. Fun story about having everything set up tech wise in your house. Like
Yeah.
things, just beware that these strange occurrences can happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bizarre. Yeah. That's
I
interesting.
know. I know. So, what do you see just as a wrap up here? Like, I have two more questions for you. One is, what do you see in general in Marcom in our industry? What's exciting you? What's coming at us in the next couple of years? Not just from a standpoint of prospect and leasing nature, but Marcom in general. Where's the focus going to head in the next couple of years? If you were to,
Yeah, I think that, if I have to make a prediction, I think what we're going to start seeing is not a consolidation of technology per se, but a consolidation of experience. I think that, customers that are being marketed to, whether it be in multifamily or elsewhere, are going to start to, from their perspective, have a much more cohesive experience. I think there's going to be more vendor cooperation, more data sharing, and more AI that's going to allow for really cohesive buying experiences for end users. And I think that that's going to yield in higher revenue for folks that are selling things. And that's probably what's going to drive the adoption of that. But that's kind of my prediction for the next 24 months is a consolidation experience from the buyer side
you're right.
because of modern technology.
Yep. I think people are trying to streamline things a little bit. And I often see too from could be smaller companies, could be the companies that have been around for a long time that privately held. They've been, still just answering the phone and taking walk-in tours and getting the job done. But there's going to be a great divide of companies that have been catching up and adopting technology and those that are still trying to piece it together. Those early
Yeah, I
adopters
agree.
are already at a point of streamlining, and the ones that were slow to adopt are really working some kinks out.
Yeah, and also the early adopters, the other benefit they have because of the implementation of technology is they've been generating data for a
Yeah,
while now, right? And the more data you have, the more insight you have into what works and what doesn't, seasonal trends that you might see, so on and so forth. So I really think an implementation of the piles of data that we're all sitting on is another thing I'm looking forward to watching happen more in the next couple of
yeah,
years.
yeah. And I think just when it comes down to hiring our talent pool too, the upcoming talent and the young generation that we're hiring in right now, I look at my own kids are college age, 22, 19, and everything they do is online and cloud-based tools and AI. And I mean, they're savvy. They do everything
Yeah.
off their phone. They're not, yeah. Yeah. So I think when it comes to training and onboarding employees too, they're looking for that tech. They're looking for a role that they have some tools to use to make them more efficient and more successful. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
This has been a really fun conversation. I'm super excited to watch Nurture Boss in the next couple of years and just watch your career growth and you and Jessica paired together taking on the world. I think is such an exciting sibling story. I mean, how many of us are still out here bickering with our siblings, and you guys are like changing the world together?
You should have seen the first 6 months we worked together. I'm surprised you made it out alive, but we fell into a rhythm that works well.
So cool to hear. So, my last question to all my guests, because The podcast is called Optimized, and we're all about trying to really lean into those little habits that can bring 1% better in our daily lives. What do you do personally, either home or work life, but what do you do that brings 1% better and just helps you get up each morning ready to take on the day better than you did yesterday?
Yeah, so I'll give you my answer and then I'll explain it a little bit. So the one thing that I do is never stop trying things. And what I mean by that is that I'm constantly on a mission for optimization. I think most of us are, whether consciously or subconsciously. And inevitably, I just constantly fail all the time. I want to go to the gym this many days a week. I want to only eat this many calories. I want to, get my golf handicap down to whatever. I want to read these many books, whatever. We all have these goals and we're just constantly not hitting our goals. That's life. It's the way that it is. And I think what's really easy to do is say, I'm halfway through the year. I'm not even a tenth of the way into my book goal. So I'm just going to stop. Right. And I think that's the worst thing we could do for ourselves. Why don't you just reset your goal, change it to a new number that you could achieve and then just keep going after it. Right.
Yeah.
So resetting expectations, resetting goals, never stop trying things, whether it be how you track goals, the goals themselves, try a to-do list, then try some app you download, then try coloring in days on a calendar, then, just keep trying stuff and just keep on keeping on. And that's kind of the one thing that I do to get that 1%.
I think you just lifted pounds and pounds of guilt off of half of our listeners and feeling like
good.
Like failure is okay.
It's not only okay, it's necessary.
The word try is so heavy in my vocabulary that if I were to get a tattoo, that is exactly the word that it would be. It would be try.
Yeah.
Because I think you do need to constantly be trying new things and trying different patterns and trying different approaches. I spent a couple of years playing women's hockey and learned very quickly, I think it's Wayne Gretzky's comment actually, that you miss 100% of the shots you don't try to take. So you do have to keep trying. And the whole fail forward and progress over perfection, like if you're always striving for perfection and you fail, then you never push anything out. But if you aim for progress and just keep pushing, even if it's not as perfect as you wanted it to be, or it didn't hit the date that you wanted to, or the goal you wanted to, you're still achieving.
At Nurture Boss, at Nurture Boss, we have, our cultural pillars. And one of our cultural pillars is done is better than perfect, right? And that's what you just described, right? Is that pillar at Nurture Boss here.
Yep. And that's the definition of optimizing, is creating things more efficient than they were before. It's not about perfecting. It's about just ongoing progress towards getting better. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's such great advice. I love it. This has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah, I've had a blast.
Yes. Before we wrap, where can our listeners follow you, reach out to you, and how do we get them that blog post? Because I think that's going to be good information for everybody.
Yeah. So I guess what I could do is, maybe Nurture Boss will put a LinkedIn post up again. So it's near the top of the feed for the blog post, but nurtureboss.io is our website, nurtureboss.io. There you can see all the blogs that we write, including the one around purchasing AI technology. Also, on the website is just great ways to get in contact with me and other folks at Nurture Boss. I'm on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can just look me up there. And, not a big Twitter guy myself, so nothing to offer those folks. But
I think they call it
definitely. See, I don't even know. So it's funny. Earlier, you were asking about technology. I was going to say my partner, her name's Rachel, and she's constantly making fun of me because she's like, you're a tech guy. How do you not know this? And it's like watching me try to navigate like Instagram is painful for people, right? I don't even know what Twitter's called anymore. But anyway, LinkedIn and our website are really the best ways to stay in touch.
Awesome. Any conferences that you're going to be at in the next couple of months?
Geez. Okay. So RetCon is coming up in Vegas.
I'll see you
Social
there.
Media Summit. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll be there. Social Media Summit, I will not be there, but Jessica and some other Nurture Boss folks will be there. There's obviously AIM, Apartmentalize, OpTech will definitely be at those, and probably a bunch other that I'm forgetting. But on our website, there'll be an events page where you can see all the places Nurture Boss will be.
Fantastic. All right. I'm looking forward to watching what unfolds for Nurture Boss in the next year. Exciting progress. Thanks so much for joining us, Jacob. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And listeners, if you liked what you heard here, this entire episode was brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. The sponsors are fantastic. The hosts are fantastic. There's so much content in blogs and podcasts to go and explore. If you liked this episode, please give us a like, a share, make a comment. And if you're interested in being a guest, hit up multifamilymedianetwork.com and submit that. Hope you all have a great day. Get out there and optimize and find yourself 1% better.
Thank you for taking the time today for this session. I hope you found a bit of inspiration and wisdom to optimize your performance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a review, and share it with your network. And remember, this podcast is proudly brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, your trusted source for stories, trends, and insights in multifamily living. If you're a marketing influencer, be sure to check out Cadence Marketing Solutions at cadencems.com. We've made it our mission to support marketers and lead you to the voices, resources, and tools that impact your success in this fast-paced industry.